Jordan Love is about to get paid, but is he dumb if he doesn't wait to sign an extension until after training camp? College football playoffs is officially 12 teams, but this 5+7, is this really a good thing for college football? And DC superheroes versus Marvel superheroes. You know which ones are better. I know which ones are better. But I have this terrible feeling that the old man over here is about to disagree. That and more coming up on Sports Talk with Dad right now. Welcome back to another amazing episode of Sports Talk with Dad. As always, my name is Kyle, and I cannot call this Sports Talk with Dad without the man sitting next to me, a man so old he was alive before TV was even a thing, my dad, Tim.
I have to admit to being alive before color TV was a thing.
That's old.
I think color came around in the mid-'60s, because I can remember Batman. It was a fight in our house every week between Batman and Bonanza.
I have a feeling you lost that fight.
Sometimes. I had a good father. He let me watch Batman sometimes, but nothing took place of Bonanza.
Yeah.
So
when was color TV? When did it even come out?
I think it was mid-'60s.
Really?
Yeah, because the Dick Van Dyke Show was on in like 1965. That was all black and white.
Yeah.
Batman, I think, came out in 66, and that was
Batman
in color.
Was definitely 66.
Yeah, that was color, obviously, for Batman 66.
Yeah.
Star
I love
Trek.
Batman 66.
I do too. Probably one of my favorite all-time series. I still watch it.
It was corny, but I enjoy it. But we're going to have to save the superhero conversation till later.
Okay.
But we did get to see another kind of superhero this past weekend in the NBA All-Star games. And the whole weekend, I have to say, it's becoming one of my favorite things. And I don't care that they don't play defense.
No, they don't. It's just all the unique ways you can score. And there were highlights after highlights. Giannis was the highest vote getter again.
Yep.
Dame not only repeated as three-point champion, but he also won the MVP because he scored 39 points.
Here's the interesting thing, right? Because they talk about the NBA or the NFL All-Star game or the Pro Bowl, the NFL Pro Bowl.
Whatever it is, it's pointless.
Whatever it is, it's they don't even do it anymore because nobody would play defense and it just became ridiculous. In the NBA, they don't play defense, but people still watch.
People still want to put on a show.
Yeah.
They're going to see a show, and Shaq even addressed that. If he got to the All-Star game, it was all about the show for the fans.
Right. And
it certainly was. However, I think take out the game, the highlight of the weekend was Sabrina Ionescu going against Steph Curry in a three-point shootout.
I dare you to say her name 3 times fast.
Sabrina Ionescu? I had to look it up, so I did it phonically right. You remember phonics? We all learned that way?
I was hooked on phonics.
There you go. So Steph won 29-26.
Yeah.
I was shocked by one thing. She got to use the WNBA ball.
Which makes sense.
Yeah, biology versus psychology.
Well, she's used to playing with that ball.
As she should. I mean, Steph's got monster hands. She doesn't. That wouldn't be fair. I also thought she should have been allowed to shoot from the WNBA three-point line to make it completely fair.
No.
Why?
Because that's not fair.
How is that not fair?
If you're going to have a three-point competition, you have to shoot from the same line. So either you're going to give Steph the opportunity to shoot from closer in, or she's going to have to shoot from far.
Why can't she shoot from her line? Steph shoots from his line. She broke the record on her line, 37 points.
She did. I get the ball because she's not used to playing with a different ball.
Sure.
And so you know the seams, you know everything. You got to play with the same ball you've always played with.
Well, and her hands aren't as big as Steph's.
Correct. I mean, I get that part. It makes perfect sense to me. The weight's different, everything. As for the line, though, no, you both shoot from the same line.
Why?
Because that's the competition. You're shooting from the same line.
But she has to shoot farther than she ever shoots.
Yeah. She's the one that called him out.
I know she called him out, and that's probably why she did it. And she actually said, I want to shoot from the NBA line.
Well, there you go. That's what makes it fair. And that honestly makes it more impressive.
Well, she was very impressive. And Reggie Miller actually had a great suggestion. This is going to happen every year from now on.
It
this
should.
Is part of it.
That was really exciting.
It was very exciting because she lit it up, and she hadn't really been playing since the end of the WNBA season.
Right.
But next year,
trust me, she's been doing is shooting from the.
Well, she's getting ready for the
3-point line.
She's getting ready for the Olympics next year, especially with Caitlin Clark. I was expecting Caitlin Clark to show up.
Yeah.
WWE music. Here she comes walking in, and now it's a 3-person battle.
It'll be next year.
Next year,
she's got a season going on.
But Reggie Miller had a great idea. 4 of the best WNBA shooters, and then Steph or whoever the NBA shooters are. So it'll be a 4-on-4 type contest with different. I think that would be great because then you can actually have them shoot from the WNBA, one in between the NBA and WNBA, and then the NBA.
No.
Yeah.
No. You all shoot from the same line. You all shoot from the same line.
I think it'd be more fun to watch them shooting from different.
Different balls for sure.
And they shot with different balls from different locations already. They had a special ball that was like a little deeper than the NBA 3-point line. You can do all that. I just think it'll be more fun.
No.
You're wrong.
You shoot from the same line. I get the different balls. You are incorrect.
No, I am not. I think I've got an idea here that will work, and Reggie Miller agrees with me.
I love the idea. I think you should have this more often. It gets the WNBA more publicity in a big all-star game that is watched by quite a bit of people. I think it's a great idea. It's a great business move, but they have to shoot from the same line because otherwise it's always going to be seen as no matter if a woman wins, well, she wasn't shooting from the same line. Hold on,
but if
you shoot from the same line,
if you've got 4 people and it's 4-on-4, you can have them shoot from different lines and it'll be more exciting.
No.
Okay.
Same line. You're wrong.
I want to hear
I'm
comments.
right. You let us know what you think in the comments below. And while you're down there, like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get to enjoy this show as much as we enjoy making it. On to college football news. And there's 2 big things that happened this week. And I want to talk about this one first. So Northwestern
has no place to play.
Yeah, clearly they had no forethought to this at all.
None.
Because for those of you that don't know, they have Ryan Field. That's where Northwestern plays.
It's
they
a pit.
Just tore it down.
Or they're about to tear it down, I think.
They're in the process of demolishing it right now. So Ryan Field will not be there next year. They are on a 2-year construction plan to build a new Ryan Field in the same location. The issue is, where's Northwestern going to play? And they apparently don't know.
Not anything that I can find.
How do you have this planned out and not know where you're going to play the next 2 years?
You can't play at Soldier Field because it's grass.
Right.
You can, I guess, play at Wrigley. I guess they've got
later
a couple
in the season. You can.
They've got soccer fields, but then that would mean moving in a ton of seats.
Yeah.
They announced one place for sure we know in 2024 that there's going to be a game playing.
October 19th, they are playing in Lambeau Field. Most likely they're going to play Wisconsin. They haven't announced it yet. That's who they're going to play.
Sure.
But they have no place to play.
No.
I didn't know this until the Lambeau Field thing was announced. I was like, oh, that's cool. They're doing a game there. Where are they playing the rest of their home games? And the answer is nobody knows.
Not yet. I've got to believe.
I mean, they could play Wrigley. They could play U.S. Cellular Field or whatever the heck it's called now. Where the White Sox play.
Can't play there.
They could split with the Badgers.
Yeah, because the Badgers have field turf, so
right.
It's not going to hurt the stadium.
You got DePaul there. Well, DePaul doesn't have a football team. No. Is there another college in Chicago that has a football team?
Notre Dame, does that count as Chicago?
No. I mean, it could.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Chicago's from Notre Dame.
Right.
I
don't know where they're
Chattanooga, I guess. I don't really know.
Champaign, but then they're splitting time with Illinois.
There's not really you could play at Whitewater. That's pretty close. That's a Division III school. You could split time there.
It's got one of the bigger stadiums for Division III football.
Yeah, you could play there.
But I don't see them doing that. It's got to be a Big Ten level. Can't play at AmFam Field because it's not set up for football at all.
Nope. Wrigley's not either, though.
But they've done it there.
They have.
Wrigley's got technically just enough room to put the field in.
Yeah, because they expanded the walls a little bit.
Well, it's the best of a bad situation. There's no good choices.
I don't know. My question is how do you go into this situation not knowing where you're going to play your home games for the next 2 years?
I have no idea. This should have been, before they announced they were going to tear down Ryan Field and rebuild.
Right.
That should have been worked out.
That should have been announced before they were going to tear down the field.
It would have been one thing if
the Bears, they went and played in Champaign. They had plans.
Right.
The Minnesota Vikings, they were going to play where the Gophers play in the Gophers' new stadium for a couple of years. They had all this figured out ahead of time.
It would have made sense if the new Bears stadium was built and ready to go. They would have went there and played for a couple of years.
Yeah.
That's not happening. So I don't know where they're going to play.
I don't know. I mean, you could do a weekend split with the Bears. That would make sense to me. You just play at Soldier Field.
They're going to have to put down new turf almost every weekend.
Okay, I'm not going to cry about new turf. They're going to pay a lease, and that'll pay for it. It's not that big of a deal. You do what you got to do. But I don't know where there's another field that they can play.
You name most of them.
I don't think it exists. But my question again is, and the only reason the Northwestern thing has happened is because Mark Murphy used to be the AD at Northwestern, and so they worked something out.
Right.
But obviously you can't play there every single week. Green Bay is 5 to 6 hours away from Chicago.
It's a one-off.
It might be longer than that. Is it? No, it's about 6 hours from Green Bay to Chicago.
Probably.
Something like that. But that's a one-off you can do every now and then. I mean, you can do a whole one-off where you're just going and playing in random stadiums, but that's not fair to the fans or to the athletes.
Athletes have no home field.
Where are they going to play?
How'd you like to be a recruit coming in this year to Northwestern?
I wouldn't go.
Exactly.
There's other schools you can go to unless you really want to go to Northwestern for some reason. There's no reason to go and play there.
Unless they're paying a lot in NIL.
I guess. But I don't know. That doesn't make any sense to me. Another thing that I am interested in. Let's use the word interested in. Did you hear about the college football news announced today?
They announced 5+7 will be the way they're going to go. So the 5 conference champions, and I don't know whether that's regular season. I'm assuming it's whoever wins the playoff.
It's whoever wins the conference, and it's the 5 highest ranked conference champions. And so it's not set in stone that it's going to be Big Ten, SEC, ACC, Big 12.
It could be 2 Big Ten, 2 SEC, which it's been a couple years.
Those are going to be the 7. So they were going to do 6 and 6, but then the Pac-12 fell apart. And so like, well, we can't do this. And the Pac-12 agreed we need another at-large bid because it's the only way we get in. So it's 5 conference champions that are highest ranked.
Okay.
So you can have you'll have 2 Big Ten teams, you'll have 2 SEC teams. Those are the 7 at-large bids. But it's the 5 highest ranked conference champions.
So there will be one from the Big Ten, one from the SEC, one from the Big 12.
Most likely.
And then one from the Mountain West.
Well, Mountain West would be Pac-12 as well.
ACC.
The ACC, I don't know where the 5th conference would come into play.
It's got to be Mountain West / Pac-12 because there's only 2 teams left.
I would assume that would be the case, but the Pac-12, it could be Mountain West, but the issue is that the Pac-12 can't play in their championship. They're not actually a part of that conference. They're just playing against each other.
No, but Washington State and Oregon State already have a scheduling arrangement with the Mountain West. They are Mountain West now.
They're not, though.
I understand that. But you're not going to, then you've already got your championship game, Washington State versus Oregon State. That's not going to work.
That's what they're going to do.
No.
That is what's going to happen. They're going to say they're going to have a Pac-12 championship, and it will just be those 2 teams playing against each other.
Okay, that'll be messed up.
That's what's going to happen.
I'd rather see a San Diego State play in a championship.
It's a scheduling arrangement. It's not a conference arrangement. So that was made clear to begin with, is that the Pac-12 is not going to play in the Mountain West championship. It can't happen unless the Pac-12 officially falls apart. But this year specifically, they will not be playing it. So I don't know who that 5th conference is necessarily going to be. But it's about to get interesting.
It is, and you've got then the 7 at-large bids, which
will be SEC and Big Ten.
Maybe Big 12.
Maybe some Big 12. And maybe a Pac-12 team.
Or maybe a Mountain West. I mean, this is set up so like a Boise State, if they have one of those breakout years, or a Cincinnati, they can get in. Right. Oh, what's Cincinnati playing?
Big 12 now. They just
That's right, the Big 12. So there is no
Boise State.
There is no Big East.
Big East is just basketball now. They had a different conference, but that.
Anyways, getting back to this, at least there's going to be a full playoff. My hope is that they're going to start right after the conference championships and that this isn't going to stretch out into forever.
That's what they haven't announced is when they're going to start playing games.
And what's going to happen with the bowls, if they're going to be any part of this.
No idea.
The one suggestion I've heard that I wholeheartedly support is that the national championship game is at the Rose Bowl every single year, which will not happen.
It might.
It should.
It might with all this, though.
It should happen. That is the greatest college football stadium in America with all, I don't care about the Big House or Tennessee or anything else. That is college football.
But you got to remember, though, I mean, it's true for the former Pac-12 teams and the Big Ten teams, but it's not for other conferences.
Sure it is. Everybody wants to go and play the Pro Bowl. Going back
Rose Bowl.
Thank you, Rose Bowl. Going back to when Joe Paterno wanted to join the Big Ten because he wanted to play in the Rose Bowl, because it had so much. It is the granddaddy of them all, as they say.
It is. I just think that in the Midwest, we have a higher, what's the word I'm looking for? A higher opinion. That's a good word. A higher opinion of the Rose Bowl than other places.
We have the correct opinion of the Rose Bowl.
As the Midwest always does.
Yes.
It is always the correct opinion.
Well, look at it. You got the Orange Bowl in Miami someplace. You got the Sugar Bowl, which is in New Orleans. Great, nice stadium. It's the Rose Bowl.
I agree. But again, I also understand I am very biased on this.
I'm not.
Okay.
I am perfectly down the middle. It should be at the Rose Bowl. And guys like Kirk Herbstreit,
Ohio State,
another guy who might have an opinion. Yeah. But there's other guys who've said it too. I think even Skip Bayless said it should be at the Rose Bowl. And he is definitely not a Midwest guy.
That's true. It makes sense for it to be at the Rose Bowl. I think that you should have the bowl be the championship rather than having it in Atlanta or anything else. I think it makes sense to be like, here is the bowl that you're going to. I think it sets that tone of you're always trying to get to the Rose Bowl. Look at the Super Bowl, right?
Right.
It's you're trying to get to the Super Bowl as the main goal. If you're looking at the NHL, it's Lord Stanley's Cup, right? It's something you're chasing. The World Series.
And just having the college football championship does nothing.
No, it's
for the Rose Bowl bid.
College football is about getting to bowls. That's what it's always been. And so it only makes sense that the championship would be a bowl game.
And it should be the Rose Bowl.
And it shouldn't switch around.
No,
I don't like the switch around. I thought I would. This was actually something I thought of a long time ago would make sense, and it came to fruition. Now that it's the way that it is, you should have the semifinals be bowl games.
Sure.
And you should have the championship be a single bowl. Be it the Cotton Bowl, be it the Sugar Bowl, be it whatever bowl it is. I agree it's the Rose Bowl, but again, I'm willing to admit my bias here.
They've done it at the Fiesta Bowl. They've done it at the Cotton Bowl.
Yeah.
Or Jerry's house. It just doesn't have the cachet that the Rose Bowl has.
Fiesta Bowl does for me because that's when I watched Ohio State win the first championship I was around.
How about the Orange Bowl? That's where you...
I don't want to talk about that one. I don't like that one as much.
Your bookie wanted to talk to you about it.
We don't need to talk about that on this show. I lost a lot of money that day, and that's all we need to say about that. But I do think that the Rose Bowl has a certain cachet. I do think it needs to be a specific thing. The college football playoffs just doesn't, college football championship in college football, when it's always been about getting to a bowl game, doesn't make sense to me. You've gone away for it for too long. Your championship has to be a specific bowl game. And if it is the Rose Bowl, that's great. You try, and it makes sense with the roses, right? You have a parade of roses now. You do the whole thing. It's a show, and that makes perfect sense for that being the show. You have the other bowls be the semifinals and go from there.
All right. Well, we've
agreed on that. It'll be interesting to see what those conferences are. Here's the thing with Notre Dame. The last thing I want to say about this, Notre Dame also agreed to this.
That's
this
right. They're the other one.
They're basically saying right now they will only get an at-large bid.
Yeah, because they're not going to be one of the top fives. Which, again, makes no sense. It makes me think there's an announcement coming at some point. They're joining a conference.
Right.
Because
the idea is
they want to be the number one seed.
They're going to be seeded. So the top 5 conference championships, the highest ranked conference champions, are going to be on a different tier. They're going to be 1 through 5, and everybody else is going to be the rest of it, which means Notre Dame will never be in the top 5 seeding, ever. They
will never accept that, so they will join a conference if that's what it's going to be. Because otherwise, if they have a 11-1 year, they should, or 11-0 year, whatever it is, 12-0, they should be a number 1 seed.
But they won't be. It will never happen now that they're not in a conference. Notre Dame just agreed to say we will never be a number 1 ranked team in the NCAA.
Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, because it can't be Notre Dame every year.
No, they're not going to be one of those top 5 conference bids unless they're agreeing that these, like, okay, those are automatic bids, which may be what they agreed to. Maybe. I don't know the full layout, but like they'll get ranked. Basically, if you win your conference championship, you're automatically in.
This got announced literally an hour before we came on air here, so
there's more coming out.
Details are coming out.
But it was weird to me to see, because the original idea that I had heard about this was you're going to have the top 5 conferences that were basically going to be the higher ranked, teams, and then you'll have everybody else. The top teams get the buys, and then you go from there, because you'd have to have a bye week at this point, I think, with the way it's broken out. I don't really know. I haven't done the math yet. But it doesn't make sense that Notre Dame would agree to this if that was the case. They're going to stay independent.
I still think they're joining a conference at some point over the next 2 years.
My guess is being the Big 12. We've talked about this. It makes perfect sense for them to join the Big 12.
Because they're not joining the Big 10.
They're not joining. I wouldn't. I mean, that's just, at this point, that's a dumb business move. I wouldn't touch the Big 10 with a 10-foot pole.
So I know you've been swamped over the last week or so.
Yeah.
There was a great podcast this week. Jordan Love appeared on the Micah Parsons, I think it's called Edge podcast.
When did you start listening to podcasts?
This one caught my eye because I want to hear what Jordan Love had to say after his season. Micah Parsons will get better at his podcast. Let's put it that way.
He's a football player.
He's a football player. Very good one.
Very good one.
I was very interested because Jordan Love, as he was going through everything, he gets it. Number one, he's got a handle. The one thing he said he learned the most from Rodgers was just the amount of encyclopedic knowledge he had.
Yeah.
He could remember plays from 2015.
It's true.
And how he worked in practice as hard as the games. The difference was he is totally team focused. It's all about, he gave credit to Aaron Jones because they were talking about the Dallas game. Yeah. He goes, look, the reason we beat you so easily, Aaron Jones destroyed you. And that gave me plenty of time to pass. Did you know that every Monday after a game or the day after the game, he has his wide receivers, I'm assuming tight ends, come to his house for dinner and they review the film to get ready for the next week?
You know what that sounds like?
A leader?
A Hall of Famer.
Not yet. Not yet.
Sure sounds like one.
Look, it's much more Brady-esque than it is Rodgers.
Rodgers was very much a lone wolf for a while there, but that's not true. He wasn't that way at the beginning. I mean, people say that about Rodgers a lot because of the way he is now, but you have to remember he was a different person however many years ago, and then all of a sudden Jordy Nelson was cut for no reason, and his attitude changed.
He had his moments, and the relationship between him and the Packers front office just disintegrated.
You can't tell me Jordy Nelson, Randall Cobb, Devontae Adams didn't all sit down and watch film together.
I don't know if he got the entire wide receiver room together.
That makes sense why the chemistry came around. Apparently Christian Watson wasn't really a part of that because he didn't ever show up.
Well, he was hurt. But the other interesting thing he said, because Micah Parsons asked him, he goes, look, you had a 4-game stretch where people were saying you were a bust. And he goes, yeah, I heard it all. And he said, you read all that? He said, you can't help but see it. I saw it.
Right.
But in the Raider game where he threw 3 interceptions, he goes, that was the game that flipped my switch. Because after that, I thought, I've got to cut it loose, and I have to begin trusting these guys to make plays.
Yeah.
And they did. So it was a very interesting back and forth.
What did I say? He's too tight right now. He's not just letting the ball go. The reason he's underthrowing and throwing these interceptions because he's not just letting the ball go. And I was right.
He still underthrew the ball almost all year.
Not at the end.
Guys were coming back for it. They were making their plays. I love the fact
they're on the money.
He's always worked. And since the season ended, he's been with Drew
Brees.
Thank you. I was going to say Drew Pearson. I'm like, oh, no, he's a Cowboy. But Drew Brees working probably on his technique.
Yep.
Just in what they're going through. Plus just working out. They had Navy SEALs working out with them.
Well, that's Drew Brees' thing.
Yeah. So he's going to be in great shape. But the fact that he's tapping into some of these guys now, he's doing what he should.
He has access and he's taking advantage of them.
Well, to me, what it says more is this guy's not happy. He is burning from losing to San Francisco, and he knows he wants to get better.
Because he choked.
It was a bad last drive.
I mean, say what you want. I mean, I still think he's a Hall of Famer. I saw Favre do it all the time. He tried to make a play and choked. I mean, that was really, he just choked. I mean, you could tell at the end there, it was pretty rough. And I love Jordan Love.
He'll never do that again.
Admit you choke when you choke. He'll definitely learn from that. He's not happy about losing because they should have been in that Super Bowl.
Well, and I think I'm not going to put it all on Jordan Love because San Francisco's defense stopped them in the red zone.
You don't ever give defense credit.
Our defense could have stopped San Francisco and made it easier for us to win that game. It's not all on Jordan Love.
Darnell Savage could have done,
like caught an interception.
3 plays that really cost us the game, and that would have made a big difference. But it was good to hear Jordan Love, and I caught parts of that you sent me with clips of it. because you send me hour-long videos, and
It was worth it this time.
normally they're not. I'm a half an hour in. Why am I watching this? And so I don't trust you anymore. But I did see clips of it. And let me tell you, what all this means to me is that Jordan Love is about to get paid. And he's about to get a huge, huge payday.
He's eligible to sign a contract as of May 3rd. Jordan, if you're watching this, and you should be, do not sign it on May 3rd.
So who you are thinking that you should wait for the other quarterbacks to sign?
Wait till you see what Kirk Cousins gets and Baker Mayfield gets.
I think Baker
Cousins
Mayfield's the big one. See, I disagree. I think it's Baker Mayfield. Because I think Baker Mayfield's about to get a big old payday for how he played in Tampa Bay. I think Tampa Bay is about to pay Baker Mayfield.
Well, the rumor is right now that Love could get between 45 and 50 a year.
He's going to get more than that.
The salary cap is busting up to over $250 million this year.
Because Baker Mayfield's about to get 45 a year. That's going to happen. Because here's the thing: is Daniel Jones set the market at $40 million a year, and so if Daniel Jones is making $40 million a year, these other quarterbacks are looking at that and saying, "I'm better than this."
That's not a real high bar to clear.
With how he's been playing lately, no.
It's like walking over a rope on the ground.
Right now it is, yeah. But it doesn't change the fact that that's your base mark. It's like Kurt Warner is the base mark for getting into the Hall of Fame. Daniel Jones is the base mark for getting $40+ million a year. It's not hard to jump over that base mark, but that's what you set your base to be.
So where do you think? So if Mayfield gets 50,
then Jordan Love is going to get 56, 57 million a year. That's what's about to happen.
I don't see that being. Here's the other thing. The only thing monkey wrench in your scenario is I can see Jordan Love signing a deal that's going to allow the Packers to bring in more players.
It's going to be backloaded,
and he's going to get his money. He's part of the Packer family forever.
It's going to be a signing bonus mainly, and then it'll be backloaded with voidable years that that aren't ever going to be played out, and you'll renegotiate at that point. It's what every quarterback does.
Sure.
What Patrick Mahomes just did. It's what Josh Allen just did. It's
Aaron Rodgers even did.
Aaron Rodgers just did that. I mean, it's what you do. You have voidable years at the end that you worry about later. That's what's going to happen. He's going to get this much money, and it's not going to affect the cap till 5 years down the road. But Kirk Cousins is probably going to get, coming off his injury, about 47, 48 million a year.
I think he's going to be in the 40 to 43.
Well, the issue with Kirk Cousins, though, is Kirk Cousins has always taken less money because he wants guaranteed contracts.
Sure.
And so he's going to look for guaranteed money. So it wouldn't surprise me to see him in the $35, $37 million a year because it's going to be all guaranteed money.
Well, make no mistake, Jordan Love is looking for completely guaranteed in some way, shape, or form.
It will be. It's going to be a signing bonus, and that's why I'm saying $57 million a year. Baker Mayfield is going. If Baker Mayfield gets 50, that's where it's going to be. I think the likelihood is Baker Mayfield's going to get between 45 and 50, and then Jordan Love is going to go up from there.
Tampa's
so if Jordan Love signs before Baker Mayfield, he's a fool. I think Kirk Cousins is an albatross. Kirk Cousins has been an albatross in the NFL with his contract for a while.
Oh, he's the first one. Wasn't he the first one to get a fully guaranteed?
But he also took a lot less money.
Sure.
When Rodgers was getting $35 million a year, Kirk Cousins took $28 million a year because it was all guaranteed.
I think I'd do that.
Yeah, I'm with you. And so you got to look at Kirk Cousins as that albatross because he's going to want that guaranteed contract again, where Baker Mayfield is the real this year's what's he going to get, because that will show you what Jordan Love is.
So you're assuming that Mayfield's going to re-sign with Tampa.
I do think he's going to re-sign with Tampa.
That means Cousins is going to be in a bidding war probably between Vegas and Atlanta.
It depends what happens with Justin Fields, because if the Bears are dumb and go with Caleb Williams, which is possible, then Justin Fields obviously is going to be traded. And so now it's a matter, okay, where does Justin Fields go? I can't talk today. Which I think will be Atlanta at that point. And then that means it's between Minnesota and the Raiders for Kirk Cousins. And I think the Raiders is the answer.
I just don't see Cousins going back to Minnesota. I just don't.
I don't either at this point, but it's hard to say that that's out of the realm of possibility. I mean, there's really 4 teams right now that are looking at quarterbacks. And it's the Buccaneers, who need to figure something out.
Atlanta,
it's the Atlanta Falcons.
Vegas and the Vikings.
Because obviously Josh Jacobs proved, unfortunately, he wasn't the answer. I was hoping for him.
Oh,
he looked really good for a couple of games.
So,
I mean, the question is, too, okay, what did the Giants do with Daniel Jones? I mean, you got to assume he's going to be their quarterback next year. The Cardinals, I got to assume they're riding with the other team we haven't talked about that I think is actually a real positive. I got one for you.
Seattle?
You read my mind. Seattle is in real play because Geno Smith isn't going to be brought back next year. They guaranteed his contract, but they're going to trade him or cut him. That's basically a thank you for what you did for us. We're going to make sure you get paid, but you're not going to be on our team much longer. So could you bring in Kirk Cousins into Seattle? Or I've been saying forever, I saw Dak Prescott in Seattle, and then you bring in Kirk Cousins to Dallas.
I think that would be a great fit in Dallas. Mike McCarthy knows Cousins very well, obviously.
Yep.
But is Dak Prescott just a more mobile Kirk Cousins?
No. Kirk Cousins is better than Dak.
But he's never gotten anybody over the hump. Maybe he will. He probably would have last year with the Vikings. They would certainly would have
having
been
an MVP season. I mean, here's the thing though, if you're Mike McCarthy and you know you're coming down to the gun here where you got to make something happen, are you going to trust a Dak Prescott where I don't know which quarterback's going to show up? Or are you going to trust a Kirk Cousins that says, I know what I'm getting every single week?
I don't see them moving off Prescott. I just don't.
If they can trade him to Seattle, but then, okay, does Kirk Cousins then go to Seattle? I think every quarterback on the market right now, besides Baker Mayfield, I think Baker Mayfield wants to stay in Tampa. But Atlanta is the spot to go. I mean, if you're looking for a team that's ready to go where a coach just didn't do what he needed to do with the talent he had, it is Atlanta. Kirk Cousins fits perfect in that situation.
It's going to be interesting to see. So Stephen A. Smith said something.
Or Washington.
What? They're going to draft somebody. But did you see Stephen A. Smith? And I'm doing this not because I want to bring Stephen A. Smith in. He's always welcome on the show, obviously. But it's about your guy that you swoon over every time I bring up his name. Chiefs have made it clear they're going for a three-peat.
Yeah.
Who's the one team that could stop them from getting their three-peat in the AFC?
Football Jesus. Joe Burrow.
A healthy Joe Burrow. And that's Stephen A. Smith's prediction.
Yeah. Joe Burrow walks on water.
Oh, I brought it up so you could do that, and it still made me ill. The other thing...
I mean, if his calf is working,
right.
He can walk on water.
I still think the Achilles was involved the way he played and walked on that thing.
It was probably a pretty bad sprain.
It was
but
awful.
You got to wonder if they're going to bring back T. Higgins. Here's the issue that the Bengals are going to have. It's the same issue the Chiefs, I think, are starting to run into, is you've paid Joe Burrow, which means you can't pay other people on that team. So T. Higgins is a free agent this year. And I tell you what, there's going to be a lot of teams, including our Green Bay Packers, that are going to be knocking on that door trying to bring in a T. Higgins-type player. Packers
need to bring somebody in for Watson because Watson just can't stay healthy.
T. Higgins.
It'd be great.
Yeah.
I don't think the Packers have the cap room. And speaking of that,
you know who's really going to go after T. Higgins, though, where I could really see him going, though, is the Chargers. Chargers need to replace some wide receivers. The Chargers are going to be big players in the wide receiver room, and I just don't think T. Higgins is going to...
He's not going to give a hometown discount.
He's not. He can't. Why would he?
You take the money.
Then you have to pay Chase as well, and so you're going... If you're the Bengals, I mean, you're back in the draft right now. That's your only option.
Well, along in that same conversation, so they're thinking of who would stop the three-peat for the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Joe Burrow was one.
Yeah.
Odds makers over the next 3 to 5 years, it was interesting. The question is, who wins the Super Bowl first, Houston or Green Bay? Houston's got a lot of cap room. They've got $60 million, $70 million available.
Yeah.
Packers are still upside down a little bit, but Packers, if nothing else, they're experienced at playing these cap games.
Right.
And they'll play it, and they're getting a lot of money coming back in the next year or two when everybody clears because Bakhtiari is gone.
Right.
Who do you think is going to be in the Super Bowl sooner?
I mean, I could see them both be in the Super Bowl next year, honestly, with the way the two quarterbacks played. It just depends on the defense. I mean, if you're asking me who's the better coach, I mean, I think DeMeco Ryans is a better coach in Houston. He really turned that team around in a single year. If you ask me which quarterback is better.
So did it. I've had my issues with Matt LaFleur, but this was his best coaching year ever.
Yeah, until San Francisco.
And he did what he does against San Francisco.
We'll see. I mean, his big thing is going to be what that defense looks like. What held the Packers back this year was the defense. What held the Houston Texans back last year, right, was the defense. So it really depends where the defenses are. Quarterbacks, you could go... It's hard for me to pick, and because I'm a huge CJ Stroud
Sure.
fan and I'm a huge Jordan Love fan. I think those are the faces of the NFL going forward for the AFC and for the NFC.
Jordan Love on any other team, if he would have been drafted, and he was considered a late first, early second round
No,
pick.
he was considered a
2020.
third round pick by many, many people.
But there were some that were putting him late first, early second. But if you put him on Houston just out of college,
Yeah.
he's probably not in the NFL now.
Yeah, you could have said the same thing about Aaron Rodgers if he would have been drafted by San Francisco.
If he would have went to San Francisco, Rodgers is not considered the best of all time.
Right.
Now, I didn't say greatest, best. Even Brady acknowledges he had more talent than anybody else that ever played the position. I think Green Bay is.
I mean, you're trying to sell me on Aaron Rodgers? I mean, I'm the wrong person.
I know. I just think between Green Bay and Houston's going to add a lot of pieces, but then it's got to be coached, and they're in the AFC.
Yeah.
I'd rather be in the NFC right now, where there's not that much of a mountain to get over other than freaking San Francisco.
Yeah, it's definitely been a switch in the last 10 years, and you knew it would happen at some point. All the best quarterbacks are in the AFC. San Francisco's going to fall at some point. I mean, they can't pay everybody. The Chiefs are starting to fall already. I don't see the Chiefs three-peating.
They've got to get a wide receiver.
Better. Yeah, they took advantage of a year where there were injuries. I mean, in reality, they should have lost to Buffalo this year. That should have happened.
But it didn't. So I think the odds for the Green Bay is 10-1. Houston is 14-1 for the Super Bowl next year.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that because it depends because DeMeco Ryans, right, is a defensive guy, so that defense is going to be strong. So it depends on who you bring in the offensive coordinator. CJ Stroud is NFL ready. I knew he was from the word go. He was the best quarterback in that class.
It's going to go down in history. Carolina made the biggest mistake. It was almost like a Peyton Manning, Ryan Leaf situation.
Correct.
Carolina made the wrong decision.
They did. Yes, that's a great
analogy.
It's not an analogy, more of a side by side, but I don't know the word I'm looking for. I can't talk.
A great comparison.
Comparison.
There you go.
That is the word.
We'll get you
I
through
knew
this.
it was started with a C. That's all that matters. Yes, it's a great comparison because if the Colts would have drafted Ryan Leaf instead, then they'd be looking the same way that Carolina does right now.
Yeah, and Bryce Young's a much better person than Ryan Leaf. Don't get me wrong.
Well, sure, but he doesn't have the talent.
Talent-wise,
I mean, Ryan Leaf had all the talent.
He's got the talent. He just doesn't have the size.
I don't know if he does.
That's the question.
I don't know if he does have the talent for the NFL.
What they need
doesn't take away the fact that he was a great college quarterback.
Sure. He's a college football Hall of Fame quarterback, probably. What they need to do is they need to get a Superman of some kind.
A what?
Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman as a quarterback.
I know you're trying to do
it's not working well
to the DC. We'll move on from here. That was rough.
That was rough. That's rougher than I normally am. You brought this up.
You let us know what you think in the comments below. Not about that transition. I know how bad that was.
Okay.
But you let us know what you think about CJ Stroud or Jordan Love, who gets the Super Bowl first. And while you're down there, like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get to enjoy this show much better than that segue just was.
So this all came up because you and I were talking after last week's show.
Yeah.
And we got into a pissing match between who is better. Batman's not a superhero.
I never said he was.
I know you didn't. Well, a lot of people say he is. He's just got
not. He has no superpowers.
Wonderful toys.
Well, no. I mean, he's also brilliant. He's
and
the world's
rich.
greatest detective.
He's rich.
He is.
But he's not a superhero.
But he's also is the master of 8 different martial arts.
Okay, that's come on in the last 15 years, 20 years.
Okay,
it never used to be.
Not true.
DC or Marvel?
It depends what you're asking me. I mean, movies, Marvel wins. The DC movies are garbage.
Hands down.
Well, with the Batman movies.
With the exception of the Batman movies.
I mean, they're trash. But so, yeah, Marvel wins there. If you're asking, I've said the same thing forever. If you're asking for better characters, right? Like if you're talking Iron Man, Spider-Man, Hulk, Captain America, Thor, you put Doctor Strange in here. I don't agree with that at all. Dr. Fate is much better than Doctor Strange.
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
Dr. Fate needs his own.
They have better characters. I mean, they really, really do. Marvel has better characters. That's why they translate better to movies. The stories
in comic books, it's better on DC.
DC, 100% of the time. Batman is the greatest comic book character ever, period. And that transcends across everything. Superman is right up there. The problem is they made Superman too invincible later on in his comic book life.
True.
Because he couldn't fly originally. He could just jump tall buildings, much like Hulk can. They were very similar. Hulk and Superman were very similar in a lot of ways. The problem is they just kept giving Superman more and more powers and made him more invincible. And that's why kryptonite had to become such a big thing, which makes no sense, by the way. Kryptonite's the most rare, rock in the but yet everybody has kryptonite.
Well, and he's vulnerable against magic, and they had to do something because Captain Marvel is Superman, essentially.
He is.
I mean, they
he's
even
just magic instead.
Right.
I mean, it's Spider-Man, I think, is better than a lot of them. Captain America's great. Iron Man loses to Batman. Now that I'm talking about this, I actually think DC has better characters now, too. Green Lantern is amazing. And all three versions of Green Lantern, by the way. Hal Jordan, Jon Stewart, who's my favorite Green Lantern, and Kyle Rayner. All great.
Yeah, and my favorite one is Alan, whatever.
You don't even remember his name, so clearly you don't agree.
The Golden Age.
Golden Age characters don't count.
Yes, they do.
No, they don't, because I wasn't around for them. So they clearly are terrible.
He had a better weakness. How can you have a weakness being yellow?
Okay, his weakness was
wood. So he could actually get knocked out.
So I could take a baseball bat and beat Green Lantern.
He'd come up with a way to beat you.
And it's not really yellow. You can't say that because he's obviously in the sun and he's perfectly fine. Although you could argue that's white light, not yellow light.
Yeah.
Why did you bring me down this path? They
Because
don't need to know how much of a nerd about this stuff I actually am.
Because you and I
feel lame right now.
Go with a feeling. You and I have been this lame since you were a little boy.
I know,
I've always
but
been DC.
We're talking sports. We're jocks. This is what we know about. And then you bring up comic books and
all
this guy is ridiculous.
All jocks know superheroes as well.
That's
because all of them wanted to be a superhero.
Yeah. Martian Manhunter, I think, is a very underrated character as well. I like Martian Manhunter a lot, and that has a lot to do with the DC. Okay, let me throw this out here.
Okay, go ahead.
The greatest superhero cartoons of all time came from the 90s and early 2000s, which is Justice League, Batman the Animated Series, and Spider-Man the Animated Series.
Okay, you could also go back for me, Super Friends.
Lame.
Spider-Man and his amazing friends.
That was dumb.
I like the Iceman and Firestorm or whatever she was. Those were good.
Yeah. Are they better than the cartoons I grew up with?
I don't know.
You know the answer.
They're different.
It's
Super Friends was a great show. I mean, Wonder Twin powers activating was great.
Yeah, it's lame.
I liked it.
Yeah, one could be any animal, and the one's like, pick your water.
Yeah, the guy he had lame powers.
Yeah, he did.
And then
it was like Aquaman, but on land, which makes it worse.
Aquaman could order somebody to become a tuna fish sandwich. I mean, let's face it.
Aquaman was pretty lame. I mean, that's where DC loses. No, they haven't. There is one thing that ever made Aquaman great, and it's when his brother took his son and literally had and I suggest you read this comic. Just watch it. It's in the Justice League TV series, but he literally nails Aquaman's hand to a rock as his son is about to fall into lava, and Aquaman literally cuts off his hand to save his son, which is why he had the hook. That made Aquaman the coolest person ever.
Absolutely.
Like that is the greatest story ever told.
Because every dad would do the same thing.
Even as a kid, I was like, okay, Aquaman's officially badass. He had the big beard and everything. But DC is way better than Marvel. It's not even close.
Except in the movies.
Well, but it shouldn't be that way.
Really?
I don't know what Warner Brothers is doing, but they are ruining because they keep changing the stories. The stories are there. Use the stories that already exist. Don't try and change this and do this Jesse Eisenberg social networking Lex Luthor. No, just tell the story as it is. They're great and people will love it. They always try and change something.
And DC has the best villains ever.
Yeah.
The Joker, Lex Luthor, great villains. Villains.
I'm rubbing off on you today.
Yeah, you are. Personally, I would love to see a Dr. Fate movie, a full movie, not just appearing in somebody else's. He's a great character.
Dr. Fate is awesome, and Pierce Brosnan is.
He was great in that. It was great, and I think he would
Pierce Brosnan.
Make him a.
I saw the clip of him as Pierce Brosnan because I wasn't going to watch that garbage Flash movie. You couldn't make me. It was supposed to be something else that I was really excited for.
And it didn't get that way.
And it's like, oh, this is trash. Great. Got it.
They never translate the comic books to movies well at all.
Well, they did. They could have.
They could have.
Flashpoint's a great story. That's what it was supposed to be. But then they got into this. No, we got to make it this and that. It's like, just tell the damn story.
You know what I think? Why I think Marvel plays so well?
Because the characters are good and the story sucks, so you can do whatever you want.
And the actors they get are so good. Robert Downey Jr.
Say that. Henry Cavill was a great Superman.
He was.
Ben Affleck was an outstanding Batman. The movie sucked, but Ben Affleck as Batman is arguably the best Batman of all.
Wonder Woman.
Gal Gadot was fine.
Yeah, I can't remember.
She was okay.
She was a great Wonder Woman.
Yeah, she was good.
The story was
terrible. It wasn't her fault that it sucked.
Ryan Reynolds as Green Lantern.
He was great Hal Jordan.
He's great Hal Jordan.
Bad movie.
But that was because they made it bad. He's a great Deadpool.
Bad movie. But if they could have translated that into, what am I trying to think, into Hal Jordan, which they could have. Why don't you just have Jon Stewart as Green Lantern? Jon Stewart is the much better Green Lantern.
He would,
and you should do that. I don't know which actor could play. Jon Stewart as the Green Lantern. I was talking to somebody about this the other day. God, I feel lame right now, and I hate you for this.
You're welcome.
But I was going through the actors, and I don't know any of the new actors anymore. Denzel's way too old, and I don't know if he would have been a good. You know who would have been a really, really good Jon Stewart back in the day would have been Samuel L. Jackson.
Oh, yeah.
Or not so much Martin Fishburne. Not as much.
You mean Lawrence Fishburne?
Lawrence Fishburne.
Yeah, he was
Lawrence Fishburne.
He was a little bigger. I could have seen him on the Marvel side playing the Beast. Kelsey Grammer was great.
Kelsey Grammer was really good Beast. You can't take that away from him.
I'm not. I'm trying.
I don't know enough. Michael B. Jordan, I definitely cannot play Jon Stewart. I don't want to see that. Please don't do it. But it's just, you got to find somebody who's... Jon Stewart's a different character. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you don't know what I'm talking about. But Jon Stewart has such an amazing presence.
He's got so much depth to his character.
Jon Stewart's just awesome.
Hal Jordan.
Man. Besides Batman, Jon Stewart is my all-time favorite.
I've always been a Dr. Fate guy. I love Dr. Fate. He's my favorite character just because he does so much, but yet he's so flawed.
Yeah, well, but the thing is with Dr. Fate, the lame thing is, and I hate you so much right now. Dr. Fate is controlling the person, like the person has nothing to do with it.
Well, he takes over, and that's what makes him. The person has to be strong enough. No, the person has to be strong enough to beat him and to get him out of it.
He has to get somebody else to put the helmet. Yeah, right. He has to take the mask off, and they make deals, and that's what makes it interesting.
Are we done?
Oh, I hate you so much because now I want to go into Zatora versus Zatara and how Zatora became Dr. Fate. I could go, or Zatara, I'm sorry, became
who's
Dr.
better,
Fate.
Flash or Pietro?
I don't know who Pietro is.
He's the Marvel version of Flash. I don't know what they call him.
The fact that I don't even know who you're talking
about. You know
him.
He was in the last Avengers movie.
I fell off, man.
All right.
they got too complicated.
That was a late night.
I didn't
Can we get back to sports?
We need to get back to sports, but I want to talk about this more because now I have to call people to be like, you have to fill in this void that I have now on comic books.
Just so you know, when I was in high school, I had 8 Foot Lockers full of Silver Age comics that are probably worth way too much. Right now, I don't want to even think about it. Thank God I kept my baseball cards.
Yeah.
But I got them. I sold them.
Yeah.
Sold them for nothing. But I did get your mom a Christmas present out of the comic books.
That's awesome. How'd that work out, by the way?
Shouldn't have given it up. Not that she deserved the Christmas present, don't get me wrong. But I should have made something and kept the comic books. Could probably paid off the house by now.
Yeah. You got my comic books, which are not as nice.
No.
They're not. My comic book, you see, because most of mine was digital. Like, I really fell in love with digital comics.
Well, you and your sister have to fight over whose comic books they are.
Oh, there's no fight.
Yeah, I know. They're hers. We'll see.
You can die and put that in your will. I'll bring you back to life just to kill you again. I mean, that will happen. This has been a very fun show, but as you all know, you cannot have a conversation with your father without your dad getting the last word. So it is all you.
So something very unique and great came out this week. Wisconsin was voted the best place in America to play on public golf courses. They beat places like California and Florida and Michigan and Oregon, and they got it right. In Wisconsin, you have Whistling Straits, of course. You've got Erin Hills, both have hosted major championships. You've got Black Wolf Run, the river course, which is where I shot my all-time best round. We also got the meadow courses. You've got Sand Valley, which is in a little town called Nakusa. You've got Century World, which hosted the U.S. Senior Open last year up in Stevens Point. But you don't have to just go there. Those courses cost a lot of money to play. The best part about Wisconsin is you don't have to pay those prices to get great golf. You can go places like Lasonia, which is one of the most historic and greatest courses you will ever play. And it is challenging. That's in Green Lake. And there are literally dozens of other courses in Milwaukee County alone. You've got Brown Deer, which used to host a PGA event. Kyle and I found one called Dreska, which is, I think I'm not exaggerating, the most challenging greens I've ever played on. And I played the river course at Black Wolf Run. Those were great. You also have great courses in Madison. You've got University Ridge over there, as well as several others. You got courses in Lake Geneva that were designed by Lee Trevino, Gary Player, Arnold Palmer. Everywhere. Personally, you can go up to places like Wisconsin Dells and play a course like Coldwater Canyon, which is one of the oldest courses in Wisconsin. I think it was built in like 1927. If you're in our area down in the southeast part of the state, you've got places like Kettle Hills and Little Richfield, Wisconsin. You can go anywhere in Wisconsin and find great golf. So if you're planning a golf trip this year, come to Wisconsin. You'll find a course and you don't have to pay $400 for 18 holes. You can pay literally $40 with a cart and get great golf and have a just fantastic time. There is no place better in the world than Wisconsin in the fall of the year, as long as they pick up the leaves so we don't lose all of our golf balls there. And hopefully I'll be back playing this year. But congratulations to the state of Wisconsin. They got it right. We are the golf mecca of the United States. There you go.
I think you're just happy because you've played most of the courses you just mentioned.
Almost all.
And by the way, I lose my golf balls anyway. I judge my rounds not by my score, but how many golf balls I lose.
I've not played Whistling Straits. I've not played Erin Hills. I've played the Bog, which is another great course you and I played. I want to play, what's it, Pine Hill? Is that the Bull?
Yeah, the Bull.
Which is a Jack Nicklaus course that's just been redone. But Milwaukee County has got some of the best courses you're ever going to play.
I have no interest in playing a lot of these because I can play for pretty cheap on some amazing courses in Milwaukee County.
Yeah, what do we pay at Kettle Hills? Literally $35?
Something like that.
And that includes the cart?
Includes the cart. I'm telling you.
Almost golf season. My hip is fixed, and I've still got the drunk driver thing I'm dealing with. I just want to be able to get out and play once in a while.
We'll see. We're hoping with the rehab you'll be able to play golf again, and at some point tennis again. Because I would like to play tennis once again.
I am saying very bad words about my physical therapist because she's hurting me.
Yep, I need to write her a love letter. Thank you so much, as always, for watching. This has been Sports Talk with Dad, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.